couple of dear friends of Michael's we'd like to bring up. Wally and also John, and they'll say more about themselves. Just Wally? And then, okay, Wally, where's Wally? Come on up, Wally, and introduce yourself and we can...
I've known Michael for 30 years. I've known Mike for 30 years, and anyone that knows Mike knows he's a relentless organizer. He's always cooking up something. I thought of his group. So I was saying that Mike is a relentless organizer. Can you hear me okay? And he formed a group that was called Neighbors for Labor. It's a pretty good name. And the idea was we would be out with the Teamsters who were striking giant food. Now, our group had all 3 members. So, you wonder what was going on. But 3 members, yet somehow maybe Michael was behind it. Somehow we got information in the varsity. So, in 2006, Mike was one of the primary organizers of Progressive Neighbors. His argument at that time was that, particularly in District 20, there were a lot of progressive people. Most progressive people were not so interested in local politics. So we had representatives who were not all that progressive. And that Michael, and through Progressive Neighbors, we really started to turn that around. And we got people more involved. And a lot of that is attributable to Mike. And he had that vision both for our organization and for others. I'm very glad that we're honoring Michael. I've been involved with him organizing many different things, and I really look forward to many years ahead. Now, I would like to take a page from Mike's organizing work, which is that if you're interested in getting involved with Progressive Neighbors, you can talk to either Mike or me or Scott, and we can fill you in on what we're doing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'd like to invite John or Esther. Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Molly.
Chocolate or is it fruit? This looks like a fruit. Oh, I think that's chocolate.
Yeah? When I was 18 in the late 60s, I attended the first National Jewish Organizing Project, organized by my brother and several others to bring progressive Jewish clergy and activists from around the country together. I remember 2 larger-than-life mockers, one in a bushy blonde beard, and the other in a dark beard running around and 2 cats climbing on curtains. This was when I first met Michael. What brings tears to my eyes is that these organizers have remained true to their Jewish values of social justice in different ways, but nevertheless true. Harold White, those are his cats, Shalom. Arthur Waskow was the dark beard. Michael was the light beard. And my brother, Rev. Daniel Siegel, and later, Rev. Jerry Serrato and Rev. David joined this motley crew. Michael is always either ahead of his time or right smack in the middle. Starting in 1990, he and Dee Herman,
I'm here.
He and D. Herman worked tirelessly to build Shomrei Adama, the guardians of the earth. With folks in this room. Could you all stand, please? Shomrei Adama, please. You can read of many articles that are found on the internet, which is pretty fascinating. Google Michael. So here are some to show how life with Michael is never dull. Inspired by a rabbi's refusal to confront segregation business practices by some of his congregants, in 1965, Michael and others started Jews for Urban Justice, bringing together DC area Jews active in local civil rights and fair housing to examine the involvement of the Jewish community in social action and take forceful stands against Jewish slumlords. And as a local leader in the 1968 Poor People's Campaign, Michael encouraged synagogues to invite welfare moms to talk about their struggles with housing discrimination. Michael and others picketed Giant, owned by the Danzansky family, during the California Great Boycott. They used the Massachusetts Board of Rabbis argument of OSHA, in which the Talmud says it is forbidden to eat the fruits of the labor of oppressed workers. Despite the 1969 court injunction prohibiting them from entering Giant, they picketed Danzansky's synagogue and home and brought their own court action until Giant Food decided to no longer sell California burgers. Michael's infiltration of a white supremacist group was written about by John Kelly of the Washington Post recently, and here's an example of a flyer that they had to contend with. Now, I know you all can see it, and I'm embarrassed to say that the title is "The Niggers Are Coming."
Make a little cameo appearance here. In 1965, I met Michael. I was working at the Montgomery County Sentinel newspaper, and in April, he was working for the welfare department of Montgomery County. In May, he led a demonstration against the Human Relations Commission. I would sort of say it was an Inhuman Relations Commission, and that they had segregationist type people on there, people who didn't want to do anything. They just recently, he was also picketing against County Council member John Henry Heiser, who was an avowed segregationist who closed his movie theater in Bethesda rather than integrate it. So Michael was also at the time the Suburban Core Council on Racial Equality chairman. So he was out there picketing with a lot of other people. He got fired. The next day, the county manager, Mason Butcher, said he was he committed offenses against the dignity of the county or something of that sort. But
Conduct unbecoming a county employee.
Conduct unbecoming, yes, I'm sorry, yes. And that was Michael. He was always engaging in conduct unbecoming. But there was at the Sentinel where I worked at the time, the cartoonist did a wonderful cartoon with the caption on it: "This welfare department can't use people who demonstrate an interest in human welfare."
Not going to learn certain lessons, Michael went on to organize federal employees against the Vietnam War, which infuriated President Johnson. He organized and succeeded in getting vending machines at Blair High School turned off until after school. His son Ben was his co-conspirator, and he's proud to say that both his sons, including Chad, who's right over there, have been arrested during protests. The 50th anniversary of the first Freedom Seder, which Michael helped organize, is being celebrated in Philadelphia, organized by Arthur Roscoe and Reverend William Barber, which will be live streamed on April 7th. And please come to, on Saturday, April 27th, to Am Kolel and Cedar Lane Unitarian Church for the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Seder celebration, and there's a lot of information there. So Michael isn't all about being serious. There's a hint of mischievousness in him. In the early years, Michael and Ben Cohen shared a striking resemblance. So when we stopped in at a Ben & Jerry's in Montreal, we sensed a buzz around us. Michael quickly realized what was going on and walked up to the staff and said, "The store looks wonderful. And you're all doing a terrific job." He then turned and walked out. And we walked out. All around us on the street, we kept hearing whispers. But if you looked closely at Michael, you would have seen a mischievous look on his face. In addition, Michael had to be restrained at our wedding from doing a fundraising pitch for whatever was his passion at the time. For those of us in this room who feel the uphill battle against the current administration, each person I mentioned or who stood up has devoted their lives to Tikkun Olam. I encourage you to look at these, our role models, for inspiration. Our daughter posted a saying from the Talmud on the wall in Michael's office, a reminder for all of us: I have not wasted my day. So please join us in singing the song that we were not allowed to sing at our wedding, but is nevertheless our song. And it's honor our song. Oh, down here. I forgot to say.
So on your tables, you'll find assumptions. Musicians, Klezmer, please give a hand. There's no place in this world where I'll belong, and I won't know the right from the wrong, and you won't find me singing of the song and wrong. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here, and I don't feel the fun of the time. All the pleasures of love will not be mine. My pain will break my life, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here, and I will bring the birds in here, and I can worry about my cares. Won't be able to do my share of love, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here, and I'm here from the rain, and I can't suffer from the pain. It takes the praise of the rain I want to guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. We sleep over the sun, and the evenings and mornings of the night. Can't you see how the sun is going on? So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. So I think if this works, we have Arthur Waska on the phone. We'll bring him to the mic from Philadelphia. Is that going to happen? Whoa, okay. Did you tell him 2 minutes? Okay.
Yes, set the timer.
Okay, go to it. Start.
Welcome, Shalom.
With a reddish beard, came to visit me at the Institute for Policy Studies. He said, I hear you bring that radical Haggadah from Penta. Yes, I said. So, he said, what good is a Haggadah without a
We have this PowerPoint that Dee and Jan and Esther put together of Mike's history, I guess. So it'll be playing throughout the evening. If you can't see over there, which you obviously can't, but come around maybe later in the evening, you'll see some of these wonderful old photos of him. So we're going to continue now. I'd like to invite, we're so blessed to have representatives here from the county. And I think this is a good time to bring Council Member Andrew Friedson, please, to come up and join us.
Normally I wait for the mic drop until after I'm done, but sometimes it's good to start with the mic drop. But just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to join you this evening. Sorry I was a few minutes late, but I want to wish everybody a happy Purim. And I wanted to thank all of you for all of the critical work that you do every day to move the needle for our community, to look out for the least among us, to take care of the vulnerable, to really to provide the soul of our community and of Montgomery County. I've lived here all my life. I grew up here. I have the privilege and honor to be a seasoned veteran on the county council. I think I'm 106 days in. So I appreciate that, and I am learning every day, and I'm learning, frankly, from you, those of you who are the foot soldiers for justice, the folks on the front lines who are dealing with the important issues that we deal with every day. Today at the council, we had a briefing on our homelessness issue. We talked about, and I talked about it at the briefing, something that the former county executive used to talk about, Hubert Humphrey's line that the moral test of government is what we do for those who are in the dawn of life, in the twilight of life, and in the shadows of life. And when we were talking about homelessness today, I talked about how we were dealing with all three at once. Those in the early parts of their life and at the end of the life, and those who are in the shadows, and we were lighting that light onto the shadows to make sure that we aren't leaving anybody behind. And that's what you do every day. You bring the light into those communities and into those folks who don't have the ability to bring it up to themselves and draw attention to it and make sure that we are addressing it. So I appreciate that. I just want to say thank you. I want to say happy Purim, and I want to say keep it up. And I hope that we will continue to work together in lockstep to make sure that we are moving the needle forward in our community together towards a better future. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. It's a great honor also to welcome Mark Elrich, our new exec here in Montgomery County, and we're so fortunate.
So I was amused to see Arthur Moscow's adept use of technology. Because if you know Mike, the way you communicate with Mike is through Esther's email. It's true. I'm really happy to be here. I mean, first of all, I like the introduction from JUFJ. They've been amazing partners in social justice work that we've been able to do on the council. I don't think, without them, I don't know that we get the minimum wage. I don't know that we get sick and safe leave and a bunch of other things. I mean, they are key to mobilizing, and you truly are the conscience of the Jewish community in so many ways, because I think you actually have an effect on the JCRC and other groups, because when you stand up and you say this is important, it kind of forces everybody to search their conscience. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the JUFJ for that. And mostly I'm here with everybody else to thank Mike. I can't think of a better champion for social justice and somebody who I've known in Tacoma Park for a long time. I can't even remember how many years I have to go backwards to figure out how long I've lived there, but it's been a while. And Mike has been, kind of constant presence, and he's unrelenting, and he's a bitch. He has the sentiments of a nice Jewish boy, but he really cares about all this stuff, and he cares about it deeply, and he has very high expectations for all of us. And it's a challenge to constantly try to figure out, how do you get as much as you can possibly get? How do you push the needle as far as you can possibly push the needle? And it's good to have people like Mike out there reminding you that you haven't always pushed the needle far enough. And you don't always win, I don't always win, he doesn't always win, but he never stops. And any of you who know him know that he never stops. And he will fight an issue until we get where we need to be on it. And so it's the good thing is I look forward to continuing to be pushed by Mike. I appreciate your voice in the community. I appreciate the cool house you built with straw bales and all that other stuff. You made a statement about the environment and the environment that you actually lived in. I think you and Esther, are pretty much pillars amongst us, and I'm glad to see you up, about, and looking well. I would like the secret of losing weight, but I don't want to do it the way you did it. But, you look really good, and so it's tempting, but not that tempting. Not that tempting. So I just, I'm really glad to see everybody else here, because we're all here for the same reason. And we all travel kind of the same route, and Mike would be called in a different place, a different time, fellow traveler. And some of you know what that means. And it is good to find fellow travelers. It is good to find people who actually believe of what we're capable of as human beings, what we have the opportunity to do. I'm reminded of that all the time when I think about where I sit now. It's an opportunity to do things that, when I was in SDS, I made a joke to some reporter, which is a really stupid thing to do. But I made a comment about 50 years ago, I was thinking about blowing up the government, and now I'm running the government. But there is that moment when you actually realize you're in a position where you can actually make a difference and do things, and I feel like I don't get there without Mike and people like Mike, and I recognize the debt we owe to you, and I want to thank you. I like your Christmas trees. I appreciate your stopping by my house and giving me advice when you're walking around in the morning. And it just, it enriches, I think it enriches all of us, and he has a good sense of humor. And not everybody in this series has a sense of humor that he has. And so it's good to know that you can look at all the absolute insanity in the world and still find something to laugh about, and find a moment when you can find some peace and humor in things, as difficult as it may be. So I'm honored that I was asked to come and say a few words to you, and I'm really honored to be your friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama. The next person we want to bring up here to the microphone has been a member of our community for many years, and now he sits in Congress representing us and so many more people in this country. We're so, the word proud is not the word, beyond proud of our voice being represented, and we welcome you, Jamie, here to this chevra. These are your friends and your fellow travelers.
Wow, this is very moving, and I had to come because, of course, whenever Mike and Esther invite me to a party, I gotta go anyway, and so this one was for Mike, and I wasn't gonna miss it. But let's start with this if we could. Mike Tabor may be a visionary, but Esther Siegel is a saint. And we love you both. And let's hear it also for Jews United for Justice. They're keeping alive Hillel's imperishable dictum. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I am for myself only, then who am I? And if not now, when? So thank you, Jews United for Justice, for what you guys are doing every single day in Montgomery County, in Maryland, and across the country. Bayard Rustin said that every community needs a group of angelic troublemakers. And at the heart of the angelic troublemakers that we've got here in Montgomery County, you will find Mike Tabor and Esther Siegel. And they are the most loyal and unswerving and spirited troublemakers that we've got. And everyone knows Mike is a troublemaker, but as our great county executive just mentioned, he's also a nudge, okay? And I want to tell the story of how he nudged me into getting into politics. And it all started back in 2006. And Mike, of course, had been on this campaign that, you know, here we were in District 20 in Silver Spring and Tacoma Park in the progressive heartland, and we deserved to have the most progressive leadership in the state, if not in the country, and yet we had people who were dragging their feet on everything, and sometimes doing stuff like putting in an Iraq war resolution and putting in legislation to expand the death penalty in Maryland. And more, for some reason, Mike's ire began to focus on me. And he said, when are you going to announce that you're running for state senate? Just against a 32-year incumbent who was president pro tem of the Senate. And so I couldn't go to the co-op, I couldn't go to the park, I couldn't go to Blair High School without Mike haranguing me. When was I going to announce I was going to run for state senate? And if that weren't bad enough, then back in the day when you could read the Tacoma Voice and the Silver Spring Voice in paper, the Michael Tabor editorials began to appear. Where is Jamie Raskin? When is he going to announce that he's running for state senate? So finally, I just gave up, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to announce. And the rest of it is the history of my political career, all due to Mike Tabor. And I should say, in fairness to Mike, that he's not just the kind of guy who gets you into trouble, but he sees you through it too, and he formed this magnificent group, which is with us to this day, called Progressive Neighbors, which has helped to not just get me elected to the state senate, but an entire progressive slate of people elected in District 20 and in 18 and 16 and 19 and 14. It has changed the landscape of politics in the state of Maryland. And don't forget about Mark Elrich either, because Mark had run for the county council at large. Mark, tell me how many times? 5 times? 4 times.
Before I won.
Okay, so he ran 4 times until that famous year when Mike forced me into politics in 2006, and we began to build a real network of progressive candidates and then eventually officials, and all of us won, and of course that propelled Mark onward to where he is today as the greatest county executive that we've got in the state of Maryland. So Mike is a farmer. He plants seeds of change and seeds of transformation wherever he goes. But he's also like a farmer, like an actual farmer. And I suppose he's the only farmer in the city of Tacoma Park who commutes to his farm in Pennsylvania every day. Okay? Now, I thought the whole point of being a farmer is that you don't have to commute. You know, you just live at the farm. But Mike set it up so, I don't know, what is it, about an hour and 20 minutes? 2 hours. Well, maybe he doesn't go every day anymore, but he used to go every day. He's definitely the only, I'm willing to bet, without having investigated, I bet you he is the only Jewish farmer in the city of Tacoma Park, Maryland, who commutes to his farm in Maryland every day where he raises Christmas trees, okay? As well as fruits and vegetables. That really is multiculturalism in a word. Mike is so prophetic and visionary. He attacks farmers markets from the left. I'll never forget it. After he got me into running for state senate, one day I was out in front of the farmers market, pressing the flesh, trying to get votes, and Mike came up to me and started railing about, I think it was the price of tomatoes that one of the farmers was charging, and that it was outlandish. And I said, Mike, really, I don't want to get involved in that at this moment in the campaign. When I was the state senator, I had two farmers in my district. One, you might remember, the farm on Easley Street in downtown Silver Spring? Charlie Quinn Farm, yeah. Charlie and Mike Tabor. I had two people out of, I think, 175,000 people. And I think I had the most vocal farm lobby in the state of Maryland, okay? And 3 of the 4 first bills that I put into action in Annapolis were from my farm lobby, were from Mike Tabor. All of them passed, including our now famous Maryland Farm to Schools Act, which Mike had brought to me, and which we named after Jane Lawton, which links schools to the Department of Agriculture and to farms. Maryland is a state where corporations can still give money directly to candidates. And of course, I said when I was going to run, I would not accept any money from corporations or partnerships or LLCs. Now, none of them wanted to give me any money anyway, so it wasn't that big of a sacrifice. But I did introduce legislation at Mike's suggestion that we go ahead and just abolish corporate contributions in our elections. And of course, that one didn't move anywhere. I maintained my pledge, and actually a number of other elected officials from D20 and other places have since picked up that pledge. But I think it was about 6 months into my first term when I got a call from the Washington Post saying, "You pledged not to accept any money from corporations." And I said proudly, "Yes, that's right." And he said, "But you've received money from a corporation." And I said, "Really? Tell me." And I'm thinking, oh my God, big oil, big gas, fracking. No, they said, in Pennsylvania, the Licking Bend Leak LLC Corporation has given you $75. And so immediately, I can't find Mike, but I get in touch with Esther, and sure enough, it's the farm that, Mike had sent in a corporate contribution from the Licking Bend Creek Farm Corporation, which I then had to return and send the documentation to the Washington Post that I was not accepting corporate contributions at this point. Look, but here's what I want to say very seriously about Mike Tabor. So when I went to Sunday school, not a lot of it took, as you know, but there was one lesson that really stayed with me. And they were teaching about a category of a figure that would appear in a lot of parts of the Bible called exemplary prophets. And exemplary prophets were people who were prophets not because they had the gift of clairvoyance or precognition, but they were prophets because of the way they lived. And it was through the force of their living that they demonstrated to other people how to live. And Mike, you also are maybe not the most religious person I know, but you are an exemplary prophet through the force of your actions and your deeds and the way that you live, always committing yourself to the good of the whole and the good of the community. And so you lift us up every day with your activism, with your vision, with your good humor. And you also demonstrate to us that in a democracy, there is no office higher than, and there's no office more important than that of citizen. And so you are our first citizen tonight, Mike Tabor. I brought something else from Congress to give to you. And, you know, Mitch McConnell still controls the Senate, so I don't get a lot of legislation all the way through these days. But this one went through, and so I decided to rush over here, Mike, before Trump vetoed it. And it is a certificate of congressional recognition presented to Mike Tabor in recognition of your exemplary career as a farmer, an organizer, and a hellraiser and troublemaker for justice and social change, presented March 21st, 2019 by Congressman Jamie Raskin on behalf of the House of Representatives.
Stand together for a second. All right, farewell. Hey. Beautiful. So, I have 3.5 minutes. So let me just go through. And Esther insisted I put this on paper. So I do have a rule, an organizing rule, like Jews United for Justice. I haven't organized anything. I've organized collectively with other people. It's all collectively done. Second, so when some of the people have talked about what I've done, it really is all collectively done with communities. So I did want to acknowledge first my friends. I wonder if my friends could stand. It's not everyone here. Thank you. So the reason I say that is I shifted in terms of beliefs and emphasis when I had this recent open heart surgery. And I realized the importance of friends. You like to think you're organizing people, you like to think you're trying to get things accomplished, but really it's friends that are the most important accomplishment. Some people who visited me, I explained that it was wonderful honoring me by coming, holding my hand, and showing me you cared. So I did want to make a correction to Mark. We actually go back to SDS at University of Maryland. I think you led the Maoist faction. Sorry. Okay, I take it back. Anybody recording this, I take it back. But I did bump into my exercise teacher because you were part of the Route 1 sit-ins, right? And my exercise teacher, formerly at the Y, pointed out how he wanted to ram his way through those people blocking Route 1. And I said, well, that's your county executive. So anyway, and I guess the second thing is to Jamie. I did complain about the high prices at the Tacoma Park Farmers Market and most farmers markets. But more recently, like this past summer, when we were handing out leaflets at the farmers market in Tacoma Park, they said that was illegal. And I said, call the cops. I'm not going to move from here. And Jamie showed up. And so did the cops. And they did not arrest me, which I asked. Well, it's not private property, it's the people's property. It's just simply because you rent a space, it doesn't mean you own the right to control that space. We still have
the Constitution, we still have a Bill of Rights. And so I did want to mention something about friends, people who are supportive, understand my impatience with the status quo and the need to change things. Thank you, my friends. Life partner, after 2 attempts at marriage, I finally got things right with Esther. We've been together for 33 years. The quality that jumped out at me after our first date was her Rahmanas, her empathy. Oh, I think I fell in love with her 20 years earlier, the first time we met. So tonight is actually an anniversary. Esther and I re-met at Verbrengen maybe 32 years ago, 33 years ago. She was wearing those clothing. And mystically, a light shone down from, I swear, and fell on her. And I asked her if I could help her carry some boxes out to her car. And we sat and talked for hours. And that was the beginning of our relationship. I think the final thing I want to say is about my rabbi, David Schneider. There's no one like David. He stayed with my wife and daughter the whole time I was having open heart surgery. And when Mike Tidwell, who's here, where's Mike? So climate change activist, he asked me if I would get arrested with him at the Dickerson generating plant in protest of, what was it, open top coal removal? And I said, of course, yeah, no problem, it'd be an honor. And he said, by the way, can I find a rabbi to join with me so we can have some more diversity? And David did not hesitate. So thank you for coming out tonight, giving me this honor, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Musicians. There was something I'd like to share. Also, who else here was a member of Jews for Urban Justice? I see, is that Ken in the back? Ken, and who else? If you're a member of Jews for Urban Justice, there are 3 of us, 4 of us here? Ken Giles, who is a member of Jews for Urban Justice, and also for bringing this. I have here something. Now, you know, Mike and Esther don't, we have some really good music. Mike and Esther, Esther, come on up. This is a bottle. I couldn't believe I saw this at Mutty's the other day.
Esther.
It's
Esther.
Queen Esther. It says Queen. Now, they don't drink wine. I said they're going to have to share this with their friends. This is a Queen Esther wine. It is made with organic grapes. Esther, please take your wine. This is Queen Esther. This is Queen Esther's Day. Everyone knows that she's the gatekeeper. And Mike, this is called Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor wine. Really? Tabor and Queen Esther. What a dynamic deal. We have a song here we'd like to help, we need some help with, I think, because it's by Saigon. They all sang Bread and Roses. Who knows it well enough to sing with us? To help us out. Who knows it well enough to sing with us? No one. Okay. I just got to get it started and I'm okay. Amazing. Seriously, no one knows it? Okay. It's going to be a weird key. It's the key of B. Okay, B. 1 second, and then we're going to go to the music. Let's see. The music is on, the words are on the program. Esther, you want to come up and help us sing it? All right. Saigon. I just have to get the key. All right, just the right key and we're good shape. Hold on. All right. Okay, Alan, so key B, right? All right, here we go. I have the other song in my head. One second. Here we go. B, key B. Now don't you think it's crazy, this whole world and its ways? Whoever thought the 60s would be called the good old days? But like the Weavers sang to us, wasn't that a time? We raised our hands like voices on high, and we all sing like roses, Joe Hill and Union Maid. We linked our arms and told each other we are not afraid. Solidarity forever, going through the hall. We shall overcome together, one and all. The more I study history, the more I seem to find that in every generation there are times just like that time when folks like you and me who thought that they were all alone, within this 100 million found a home. And they all sang Bread and Roses, Joe Hill and Union Maid. We linked our arms and told each other we are not afraid. Solidarity forever, we go rolling through the hall. We shall overcome together, one and all. That's verse. And through your generation is that rolling hands. Our present here is a witness to the power of the past. And just as we have drawn the strength of years now are gone, younger hands will take our work and carry on. And they'll all sing the Bread and Roses, Joe and Union Maid. They'll link their arms on the doors and told each other we are not afraid. Solidarity forever, we go rolling through the hall. We shall overcome together, one and all.